Hello and welcome to today's short fountain pen review. The pen in question today is this, the Jinhao 59. Now, those of you who have been around in the fountain pen world will recognize that this pen is very similar to the Pilot E95S. Now, everyone on the internet has their own opinion about these sorts of things. I have also here the Pilot Elite, which is the more sort of vintage version. And what I will say is by dimensions, these are extremely similar pens, but in a lot of ways, that is where the similarities end, because this Jinhao is a 12 Australian dollar pen, the Pilot close to 300 Australian. So very different price points. Gold nib on the Pilot, steel nib on the Jinhao. You know, there's no, at the moment, they don't have this colorway. The Jinhao comes in a all black version and a silver and black version, which harken back really strongly back to that Elite model. And you can also get an all black E95S as well. And of course, 59 and 95 are, you know, the numbers just swapped around. So make of that what you will, but my review today is about this specific pen, and it is to give you the idea of whether this is the pen for you, whether you should pick one up, whether it is worth your 12 Australian dollars. So starting at the top of the pen, plastic black cap, clip band. The clip is perfectly functional, nice and springy and usable. The cap swells. This is the stainless steel cap or the metal cap version, as the black one is all plastic. And then you get a little chrome ring. This is like a brushed sort of stainless steel. And then the black barrel here, which tapers slightly to a flat end. It is a slip cap and it's very nice. You know, it's not quite got the same sort of polish on that as the Pilot does, but it works perfectly well. A little metal ring there. And then the section, I suppose, rest of the barrel down into the section tapers. And then we get this sort of inlaid Jinhao nib, and I have it here with a fine. There are a few different options available depending on sort of what seller you go to. I purchased this from AliExpress. So find AliExpress in your country and see what is available there. It is a cartridge converter pen, and it comes with the Jinhao converter. It is a fairly standard Chinese size converter and works very nicely in this pen. A little O-ring there to secure the barrel down. You pop the cap on the end there, and that's very nice and secure. And then you have a full-size pen. It is quite lightweight, but it feels good in the hand. It has that same form and function of the Pilot in that respect. A lot of Japanese pen brands, Pilot, Platinum, Sailor, all had very similar pens like this in their lineup. So it's no surprise to me that Jinhao have taken that as their model for this particular pen. For the size comparison today, I'm going to put it alongside the Pilot E95S and the Pilot Elite. And then just for, you know, standard sake, the Lamy Safari. You can see these are pocket pens basically. They're nice and short, they're compact, but as you saw and will see, they come out to be sort of pretty decent size pens when they're posted. So you can see once again alongside the E95S, it's about the same sort of length. The nib is quite a different design, and of course is stainless steel versus the gold. The nib does tie closer to sort of other pens from vintage brands, even like down to like vintage Mont Blanc pen nib designs. They are considerably shorter there than the Lamy Safari in this format. When they're posted to their, you know, intended writing length, they make a good length pen, longer there than the uncapped, unposted Safari, but once that's posted, that's a little bit longer again. So what are the specific dimensions of the Jinhao 59? Well, it's 118 millimeters, roughly, when it is capped. It's 106 when it's uncapped. So, you know, I have found myself just quickly using it like this to jot down something or tick something off a to-do list. And then at its full length, it is 150 millimeters. So it's a pretty good size. Around the middle of the section around there is about 10 millimeters, and around the body is about 13 millimeters. The pen weighs 20 grams, 10 in the body and 10 in the cap. Because it's nice and light, that balance is very good, and it posts nice and deeply, so a lot of that weight is pretty evenly distributed there. Time for the writing sample now with the Jinhao 59. I would say that drying out is just because I've been filming the review. It's not something I have found. It has a steel fine nib. And the ink in this is platinum. Carbon black. Do some writing. So one thing I will say about this pen, as I said, I think that little dryness at the start there was more to do with the fact that I've been filming this video and had the pen uncapped and stuff like that. But in everyday writing, it does have a tendency to, particularly on like upstrokes, just write a little bit lighter. I have primarily been using this pen for print writing, given my personal use of this pen and what I've been using it for. And this has been in the pen loop of my pocket notebook for the last couple of weeks. And it's been very reliable. Not necessarily a particularly exciting pen to write with, but reliable. It is also a fairly sort of broad fine, I find, and relatively wet. And reverse writing, very scratchy and dry, not a flex nib, you know, not designed for that. But as I said, I like the wetness of it. It's not super wet, but it's definitely wet enough. Quick writing. Same sort of thing with some of those upstrokes. It's just a little bit drier there. But, you know, I've not noticed things like hard starts or skipping or anything like that. It's just some of those upstrokes. You can see there, even just that, like it's a slightly drier upline than it is a downline. Not uncommon, but, you know, a reliable writer, an easy writer, and a pen that at this price point, you're not afraid to put in the pen loop of a notebook or carry around. Would I do the same with the Pilot E95S? I carry that in my pocket, absolutely. But not necessarily, you know, someone that gets banged up a little bit. You can see like a few little scratch marks and things sort of in the metal of it. That's going to happen. But for 12 Australian dollars as opposed to 300 Australian dollars, I'm quite happy for that to be the case. So I've spoken about the price at 12 Australian dollars. As I said, I bought it from AliExpress. They range there from, depending on the deal you're getting in the seller and all those kinds of things, around the 10 to 15-ish Australian, which is reasonable. It's not the cheapest Chinese-made fountain pen going around. It's not the cheapest Jinhao, but I think it's at a reasonable enough price point that you can make this pen with its interesting, you know, form and function, you know, an easy sort of purchase. And if you're interested in the E95S but not sure it's the form and function for you, this might be a great way to try it out. Or if it's just outside of your price range and you love the form and function, Jinhao have come to the rescue. So what are my pros and cons? Cons, as we saw in the writing sample, it's not always 100% consistent. There are occasional sort of drier lines, and sometimes it can be a little wetter than other times, depending on how long it's been since it was written with and all those kinds of things. The balance is fine, but it is very, very lightweight. It feels lightweight, as does the Pilot. It's one of my only criticisms of the Pilot E95S is that it feels quite light. Like a tiny little bit more weight in that pen would make it feel wonderful in the hand. But there are a number of pros to this pen. Firstly, that nib writes quite smooth and effectively wet. Not like super wet, but wet enough that you can enjoy the ink. And I've just had platinum carbon black in this and it's been writing beautifully with that. You know, the fact that it is lightweight and pocketable is a big pro. I use it for that. I sort of put it down in the pen loop of my pocket notebook and it's been a wonderful companion there. It's convenient. It's smaller, it does the job, it comes out to be a good sized pen. It comes with a converter, which is better than the Pilot Con 40. But also what I love about this pen is the price. I love the fact that for $12 I can have a pen that I can carry around like this, that I like the look of. I think the design is great. Obviously, it's not a design that Jinhao entirely came up with on their own, but it is a nice design and I like it. And it works. And for this, as I said, for this amount of money, getting a few scratches on it, a few dings, I'm more than comfortable with that. I have the black one here as well, inked up with Sailor Kiwaguro, both in fine. These are being inked up for another video I'm making. And they work perfectly well. So this was the Jinhao 59 fountain pen, new on the market in the last sort of couple of months. An interesting, if not completely original idea, and one that, you know, as I said, if you're looking at the Pilot as a potential pen but want to try something similar, not the same but similar, at a lower price point, this is a great option. Or if the Pilot is just outside of your reach, which, you know, let's be honest, these things are getting so expensive, and with cost of living and all that kind of stuff, this is actually a decent option if you want a pen that does a decent job. Obviously, everyone's going to have their own idea whether this is okay. We're not talking about intellectual copyright here. Everyone's going to have their own opinions on this. Let's just leave it at that. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, hit the notifications button, and consider becoming a member of this channel, where for a small monthly fee, you'll get early access to my videos, priority comments, and a few other bits and pieces along the way. So enjoy your pens, enjoy writing, and I'll talk to you soon.